Hello, I'm Sarah Manasreh.
And I'm Berginald Rash, and this is Clarinet and Community.
A video series dedicated to clarinet, community, and belonging.
Welcome. Bienvenidos.
Hello, I am Berginald Rash here today with Clarinet and Community, and I am so excited to introduce you to an amazing clarinetist, Vince Dominguez. Now, Vince isn't your everyday performer. He's a performer that goes a little extra to bring you all the exciting developments happening in and around the world of clarinet pedagogy performance and ways to reach and inspire wider, broader, more inclusive audiences and communities. What he has to share is so vital and speaks to the whole role of clarinet and community. So I, along with Sarah Manasreh, am thrilled to present this to you.
Hello, troublemakers. Thank you so much for clicking, and welcome back to the Clarinet Violin. Loading a tiny little
Hello, we are here today with Vince Dominguez. I have a question because you are such a well-known character as another persona, which we'll meet later. But I want to know about Vince. Who is Vince? Where does he come from? What does he do? Tell us about you, Vince.
Hello, Clarinet World. My name is Vince Dominguez. Thank you so much for having me today. Who is Vince? That's a tricky question because in some ways I still feel like I am learning who I am. I think the pandemic really gave me a lot of perspective and a lot of clarity. Um, no pun intended. Clarinet clarity. Um, with what I'm trying to achieve with my career and my personal life, and just what makes me happy. I think for a lot of my life, I've been trying to check a lot of boxes, like many musicians do. Going through the hoops and getting my degrees, and doing things strategically that would get me from point A to point B to point C to Z. Just like so many people do. And the pandemic really made me have to reevaluate what was important to me and what I could live without and what I had to live with going forward and what I needed. Needs versus expectations, things like that. So I would say, at my core, I'm a very creative person. I'm highly adaptable. I've always been the kind of kid who would, create something from nothing. I was very crafty, very, I didn't need video games to keep myself busy. I think going through school as a young kid, where I grew up, I felt like a lot of my time was spent alone due to external factors that we will probably touch on later. But, I think the clarinet and Pokemon cards really like allowed me to feel seen and like I had a place on planet Earth. So the clarinet has really been, like my best friend through my entire life. 23 years now that I've been playing this magical instrument, and it's taken me around the world. It's given me opportunities to meet people, find employment, have purpose. And now in 2022, I'm continuing to use it in a way that I never ever could have expected. I'm continuing to reinvent myself as a musician, a teacher, an artist, a multidisciplinary creative. And I hope that what I'm doing can inspire other people to maybe take that next step, even if it's a small one, to act on what they have always wanted to do. So that's me in a nutshell. I'm a fighter. I'm very determined. You can't tell me no. I'm tried and true Sagittarius. I love to, you know, try lots of things. I'm very open-minded. As a teacher, my number one rule is making sure my students have fun, and the rest is, is besides the point. As long as people are having fun and they're doing what they're doing, I think success will naturally follow. I think I spent too many years of my own music education feeling way too caught in my own path and holding myself back from performing at my highest level and feeling happy while doing it. So, now with the things I'm doing, it's really allowed me to reclaim my time and my energy, and I'm starting to really unpack a lot of layers of performance anxiety and self-doubt and even childhood trauma that's kind of gotten in the way of a lot of things that I've always wanted to either achieve or just, feel happy doing as just Vince. So yeah, that's I think maybe I've said a little too much and there's more questions, but that's about it. I'm a pretty regular person. I have I like all the same things as most people, but just a little more colorful.
There's so much there. That's so beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. Sarah, did you want to jump in?
Yeah, so I'm so excited that you mentioned finding a way through performance anxiety and just finding yourself. So one of the things that you do, out of many of the things you do, is you have created Clarinet. Can you tell me a little bit about the concept behind that and what inspired you to go in that direction?
Of course. So Dr. Annette Reed, that's her full name. She doesn't use her full name because, it's too long, just Clarinet. Clarinet was invented as a way for me to adapt to the world that to a world I wasn't familiar with during the pandemic. I didn't know the direction that music was going to go in terms of, traditional concert hall settings and teaching and auditions. And I think that's safe to say, looking back, because none of us knew what was going on. And it was also just kind of, I did it on a whim. I've done drag for Halloween a few times, and I've always loved watching, RuPaul's Drag Race and Dragula and Camp Wanakiki, all the drag content out there. It's very mainstream now, so I just felt like every time I'd watch those shows, I always kind of think, well, what would I do if I was on that show? And I always had the ideas in my head, and it was always kind of like in another life kind of set type of way. I never really thought that I would ever be doing drag because the amount of work that goes into it is insane, and it's just it's a really tough art form. It's very challenging, and the intersection of a classical instrument would just make it that much harder. So why would I ever do that? But here we are, and so I created Clarinet as a way for me to keep going, and over time, it's really kind of become more than that. I've really started to learn how much of an impact she is making for other queer kids, for other clarinetists, just for the drag community at large. People who would never have thought to give the clarinet the time of day are now really excited about my instrument and what she does as a harbinger of creativity and musical inspiration for, that community. The intersection between the two is becoming a lot more intertwined, and my audience is very mixed, but it's fun to have like equal parts clarinet people, drag people, and just like hobbyists. So um, doing this for me, as a way to kind of, you know self-reflect and keep going and do something wild and creative that no one ever thought I would do, was also kind of terrifying. In a lot of ways, when I announced this publicly, I think it was like about a year ago. Um, I had only done a few performances in New England. The rest had just been during the pandemic, figuring out my face and aesthetics and styling and stuff like that. And there's just so much that goes into creating a persona and a character. So I really wanted to make sure that I had it more or less right before I put it out to the world. So coming out again was really terrifying. I felt like I was coming out again in a lot of ways, and I wasn't sure how people would receive it. But it's been really, nothing but good feedback, and people are really loving it in a way that I never could have expected. So I'm really trying to kind of think about, what do the next 5 years look like for me and Claire, Annette? What the next 10 years? Because, being in my almost my mid 30s, I'm at a point in my career and life where starting this doesn't really make a lot of sense logistically. A lot of people start drag like 18, early 20s. So I'm definitely in like the senior class, so to say, when it comes to working in nightlife. But I think that people really see what I do as having a lot of value, and there's a lot of sparkle to it because I do something that no one else does. There's no one else playing a woodwind instrument or a classical music instrument in nightlife. So it's really spectacular to be able to share that with people and have a direct impact on their perception of what classical music means in 2022.
That's incredible. I think with Lizzo having brought her flute to the forefront of hip hop and pop music, you're really seeing this sort of expansion of what these instruments can do. And I love that you're a part of that movement. What I would like to know, however, because we have you, Dr. Vince Dominguez, and now we have the other persona, this drag persona, Dr. Clarinet Reed. What does a typical day look like for you, Dr. Dominguez?
A typical day is always changing. I'm also a graphic designer by day. I work for I've been working in social media marketing, graphic design, and arts administration marketing for the past 8 years. So on top of my teaching and my drag persona and everything else that I do, I also, that's my day job for the most part. I also do some adjuncting in the New England area. So I would say it's consistent, but always changing, just because when it comes to incorporating my drag performance, there's so much work that goes into just preparing for one night, even one track. I do all my own hair, makeup, costumes, my videos, all my mixing. So there's a lot of preparation that has to go into that, or else it just kind of doesn't happen at a high level. Not having an assistant or a producer, or, a team. I have to do everything myself. So like everything you see on my channels, my social media, whether it's Vince or Claire, is stuff that I do. So it takes a lot of effort and a lot of time to be able to do all these things simultaneously. But my day to day is spent doing mostly all these things collectively, whether it's designing something or practicing. Don't have much time for that these days. I'm lucky if I get an hour, 2 hours in a day. I also do subbing with orchestras still. I'm still doing everything I used to. It's just more layers. So the time management aspect is a little tricky at times. But at the end of the day, I feel really fulfilled knowing that I'm getting to act on all my creative intuitions and my dreams and everything that I want to do collectively. So it's a slow moving process, but it's all moving together.
If I could shift gears for just a moment, you mentioned during the pandemic and creating Dr. Clarinet, you had like this sort of, it's like coming out again. And I would love for you to speak to this experience about what it's been like for you within the clarinet community and the wider community at large on being an openly gay Latino man.
Uh, that's a. I feel very confident. There's never been a time in the last few years where I questioned who I am as both a queer person and a Latino. Growing up, not so much. Living in a more conservative part of the country, with a very oppressive religious community, I felt very at times like I didn't fit in, and I wasn't able to assimilate to the expectations that were around me, and not for my own fault, just because it was just the environment that I had to exist within, and um, so that was really challenging. I think those experiences of feeling othered as not only a Mexican, Latino, or once I finally realized, yeah, I'm gay, I'm queer. Once I got to college, that was another layer that I really had to unpack, and it was really challenging. But I would say that Vince in 2022 is gayer than ever. I'm a level 100 Pokemon, so I'm doing the thing, and I'm representing both parts equally, and I'm very proud of who I am. And if I'm too much, go look for less. That's all I have to say. Um, but I'm very proud of who I am. I'm happy to be a, someone that I wish I had to look up to. I never had someone who looked like me or did these things, um, or was just, not even drag, just, openly gay and Mexican and creative and ambitious. And, so I have kind of, more in the past month, kind of been telling myself, I need to start just owning the fact that there are people who need me, and I get tons of messages a month from people telling me thank you for what you're doing, and that's honestly the best part of what I'm doing now. It's knowing that there are people out there who are seeing me as a point of strength and inspiration and motivation to keep going. And even though I never had that representation as a kid or even through college in a lot of ways in my early career, it's really powerful to be able to have that presence now and be able to share that with other people, and to be able to know that it wasn't for nothing, and the hardships I faced through thick and thin, are really starting to materialize in a way that I can feel proud of, and give back to every community that I go between. So it's been really really cool.
Thanks for that. I think when you first put out videos, it caught my eye, it caught Bergie's eye. Like, we were very curious, and we were excited when the video started. And one thing that really struck me, and one of the reasons that we reached out now was because when I was at Clarinet Fest this past summer, you kept coming up.
Really?
And
Wow.
people, yeah, and people were excited, and people were, the hoping that, oh, the ICA should put on a drag show, that these kinds of things were coming
Yes.
out. And so that representation really is being impactful. And I can't imagine how terrifying it was to just be like, okay, I'm doing this, in the field. And I guess the question I have is, were you surprised at the response and the community that it's building? Are there any things that you expected? What are like things that you didn't expect about the community that is now surrounding you?
I honestly had no expectations. That's kind of my thing, you know. I do things my own way, and most of the time it works out. But I would not consider myself to be, you know, a traditional clarinetist. So I think when I really started this process, I kind of just had to tell myself, you know, you're not going to be for everybody, but the people who are going to enjoy this, those are the people that you need to, you know, give your love to. And so yeah, at least with the clarinet community, I really didn't know what to expect. It really felt terrifying because I know we've recently met, but for anyone who knows me or has known me for a while, I don't think they ever would have expected that I would have gone this direction with my career. And not to say that I gave anything up. I'm still doing everything. I'm just doing more of it now with this. So I'm even more busy these days than I used to be. But I'm sure there's people out there who maybe don't see the value in what I do, or people who are more traditionalists in their approach to music making. But you know, in terms of the drag community, it's been in a lot of ways really crazy because there's really no one else who does what I do on planet Earth in the drag world or the clarinet world. So the intersection between the two has been fun because I don't feel like I have to compete with anybody else but myself for the first time in my career. So I can create things and go at my own pace and feel like, you know, I have the agency to do so whenever I want. So that in itself is really something cool that I never expected. But in terms of, you know, the drag community, I think they see me as being very much, you know, a very valuable member of the community. You know, the talent that I have and mixing it with drag is unprecedented. I guess there's a couple performers who have done strings, but never woodwinds. And thinking about the way Lizzo has made her mark with the flute, you know, I kind of told myself, you know, I would love to be the Lizzo of clarinet someday. You know, if we could duet, I would know I've made it. If I could duet with Lizzo, that would be, you know, at the VMAs, that would be, you know, chef's kiss. But it's been really really heartwarming. I feel really appreciated by my drag community. I've been able to inspire a lot of other people to, you know, try new things and reevaluate what they're doing, and being able to share my musical experience with them has been equally fulfilling. And working in nightlife is crazy. I will say that, you know, coming from classical music to nightlife, you know, the two could not be more polarized in the way that they operate. So in a lot of ways, it's also been kind of challenging for me to navigate those two ways of living, because it's like I have to get up and work and do my things during the day, and then if I'm doing a gig a night, I have to kind of switch to that mode. And there's like a whole other like you know, world out there that exists, and you know, drag as a art form is still very it's still very tight, you know, like it was never really meant to be mainstream. It's definitely, you know, more on the fringe of the creative world, and it's very subversive. It's very punk rock, and you know, the community that I built through there is very special to me, and it's something that I have like gained access to that not many people can say they have, and being able to leave my mark on both worlds, and you know, share the importance of music as it relates to me and my own lived experiences has been really cool. So so yeah, like no expectations, but what's actually happening now is become very, in some ways, overwhelming. It's like I don't know what to do with all this positive feedback. It's like I wasn't sure of how far this would go. I said, I'll try this for a year and we'll see what happens. And now that things are really taking off and things are going really well, it's like, okay, I need to, you know, see myself the way other people see me now. And, I think that's like my next step.
Oh, I think Bergie froze. Bergie, are you still there?
Have I frozen? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Sarah, did you want to ask the next question?
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Great. Oh gosh. Well, I love this, and you're talking about this idea of community within not just the clarinet world, but also the drag world. And I love that you've created communities in both spaces, and there's an intersection there as well, and that you're finding more intersections and helping to create and cultivate intersections there. My question is in reference to this idea of community. Do you see or encounter many safe spaces for queer identifying classical musicians within the classical music world? And is there a chance we might get to meet Claire today?
Funny you asked that. You, she is she's getting ready right now, and she will be down after she powders her nose and takes a shot. So she'll be down in a few. But in terms of queer representation or safe spaces in classical music, it's hard to say. I mean, with any music school I've been through, I was always kind of able to find, you know, people who I vibed with, and I was able to find my fellow queerdos, and friends that I felt comfortable with, and wanted to spend time with. But in terms of like exclusively sanctioned spaces, I'm not sure if there's very many of those that I'm aware of. That's something I would love to see more of going forward. Is within the ICA. I'm not sure if there would be interest in that, but if there is, I would love to be a part of that process. So just putting that out into the universe. I think it's important. I think we're living in a very divisive world right now, and a lot of people don't feel like they have the space to express themselves in any capacity, or just to exist. And being in the arts, I think we should be able to feel comfortable with whatever we want to do. And I would love to be able to feel like, at least, younger generations have that in a way that maybe people my age didn't. So if there's a way for us to kind of cultivate those spaces and make sure that there is resources out there, I think that's always a good start. But I can't think of too many that are exclusively queer. I think within any school or setting you go to, there's always going to be people who will accept you and love you. But I would love to see more of that in the future.
Thank you.
Brilliant.
So thank you, Vince, for joining us. I hope that very soon Claire will be ready. And I look forward to meeting her. It was delightful to talk to you, and I would love to continue to open the conversation of creating those spaces and have you part of that conversation.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much. And
We'll talk to you later, I guess.
Talk to you later. Thank you so much.
Hi, clarinetists. A little while later, we were able to sit down with Dr. Clarinet Reed, and it was so very exciting. In this section of the interview, we chat more about how Clarinet Reed got her start, but we also talk about performance anxiety, finding spaces to fit in, advice for getting started and finding your space, and the importance of creating spaces and communities within our field for LGBTQ plus people. It was both enlightening and inspiring, to say the least. So I really hope you enjoy it as much as we did. Thanks.
Hello and welcome back. We are here now with Dr. Claire Annette, the one, the only, the mistress of clarinet. And we have a few questions for this wonderful persona of a diva. How did you become a drag queen? How did you get into the business? What inspired you? What drove you? And what are some of the projects you are really into and are excited about that are forthcoming?
First and foremost, hello, International Clarinet Association. Hello, Sarah. Hello, Bergie. Hello, all you fellow clarinetists. My name is Dr. Clarinet Reed, Clarinet for short. I am the queen of the clarinet and so much more. One-woman band of drag, East Coast regulation hottie. She's glampy, she's fun, she can do it all. But this is my normal voice. That's the voice I use on my YouTube channel, the Clarinet Network. Clarinet was born really out of a necessity to keep making music. I created this persona to really try and cope and adapt to really unprecedented times back in the beginning of the pandemic, when music as we knew it was really up in the air. There was really no guarantees for performances or teaching or auditions. All the things that I had told myself and like so many thought they were going to pursue out of, a doctoral program or, just in general. So I had always loved drag. I always loved the art form. I thought it was so cool that you could just, create a persona and combine all these different art forms and make it your own, and you call the shots and you produce the performances and you can book other people to collaborate with you. So it's really such a conglomerate of creative, magnificence, and I think until you start to do it, you really don't realize how much goes into it and how challenging it is. And that's really something that I underestimated when I first started, watching shows like RuPaul's Drag Race or Dragula or Camp Wanakiki. I would see these performers and how much light they would bring to the room and how creative they were. And I would always think to myself, if I was doing that, these would be my ideas. And I think I had clarinet in the back of my mind for so much of that time that I'd be, digesting those shows, and I always had the ideas. But at the time I was, a full-time student and looking forward to graduating with plan A. And then pandemic happened, and it was definitely a time of reckoning for many people. And like I said, this was kind of my way of adapting, and slowly but surely I started to kind of explore, what if I could, incorporate live classical music in a club or a bar. How would I do that? That sounds logistically crazy. And would people even like it? Would people have fun with that? Would it be relatable? Would it be exciting? So flash forward to 2023, we are almost 3 years since March of 2020, and things have really taken off. Clarinet is 3 years old, so she's not quite a drag baby, but she's got her training wheels off and she's taken to the skies. So I'm really excited for the future and how I can use my platform to inspire other people to just maybe consider how music is not one-dimensional. And not to say that I've given up on, everything else in my career. I'm still teaching, I'm still conferencing, I'm still performing. But I'm also doing this, and it's been so cool to integrate and kind of cross-pollinate all areas of my musical creative abilities. And I think it's only made my drag more captivating to people who don't know me yet, and more exciting and more just more fun. I'm having more fun making music than I ever have in my entire life. And I really feel like my stage fright and my imposter syndrome and my anxiety are at all-time lows, which we can maybe talk about a little bit later. But that's I hope that answers the first question.
Yeah, I actually would love to talk about it because I know that I have thrown around ideas like, oh, we should play clarinet in bars. What's something that we can do to bring classical music into the into an accessibility realm that allows everybody to enjoy it. But the logistics of playing and the kinds of playing that you are playing for a lot of people. And I was wondering, what are some ways that you manage, like how has drag and these kind of experiences helped you with performance anxiety and imposter syndrome?
Honestly, you know, looking back to my first performances, which were terrifying, I'm not gonna lie, it was really crazy to play my clarinet in that setting for the first time. I remember thinking like, what the hell am I doing? Like, is this like really what am I doing? Is this my life? Like, I chose to do this. But you know, seeing people's first reactions, I'll never forget, like they were just blown away. They were having so much fun watching me. And at the time, like I had like a little logistical error. So I wasn't even amped. Like I was playing my clarinet with no microphone, but I was wailing over Depeche Mode's Enjoy the Silence at like 12:30 on a Sunday in Boston. It was crazy. I'll never forget that night. But I think that first time really kind of shed a lot of layers and really made me feel valued in a way that classical music by itself never loved me back. I think being in classical music comes with a lot of expectations and a lot of strings attached to meeting certain criterias and goals and benchmarks, and you have to play a certain way and go to these festivals, and there's a lot of costs involved, and it can be very cost prohibitive depending on, you know, your financial situations and, you know, just everything. So those are all things I kind of experienced through school. I found a lot of success in school and classical music, but at the same time, I always kind of felt like, how can I find those gray areas where, you know, I can stand out and, you know, let my voice be heard in a way that is different and is going to pull focus in a productive way. So to answer the question, I think just being able to connect with people who have never experienced classical music, I think has been the one thing that has really helped me to shed a lot of my layers of anxiety and stage fright. You know, being able to connect with people and really share my music in a way that is genuine, and with people who are really just there for a good time and just really want to learn more. And you know, people from hobbyists to people who used to play the clarinet who want to pick it up again because they saw me play, you know, while they were drunk at a bar on a Saturday, like they feel reinvigorated and re-energized to pick up their clarinet. You know, that makes me more motivated to get back on stage and keep doing this. And I think that has been really the one thing that has helped me to heal. And I know there's no easy answer. You know, I did a lot of different programs for stage fright and anxiety, and I always kind of was hoping for that quick fix. But I think for me, at least, it was a little more internal, and I really had to like search a little deeper to really figure out, what do I need to do to help others so they can help me. And that's like been the one thing. You know, I think community is really important to me as well, and being able to build that has also been the one thing that's also helped me to, you know, kind of reach more of an equilibrium. And not to say I don't get nervous still, believe me, it's really nerve-wracking to play for hundreds of people in a really crowded space. It's loud, it's chaotic, you know, people are drinking, it's, you know, it's wild, you know, like, but I feel at this point I'm really used to it, and that's kind of like my norm. So I wouldn't expect anyone else to feel, you know, comfortable in that setting without a few tries. But yeah, it's a work in progress, but I feel really happy lately with what I'm doing and the ways in which I'm helping others feel inspired.
That's amazing. And you mentioned community, and I'm very curious to know, as a drag performer, as a clarinetist, as a PhD DMA holding clarinetist, how important do you think it is to create, promote, and sustain safe spaces for LGBTQ plus individuals in the clarinet community?
It's crucial. It's more important than ever. I think if you've watched the news in the past few weeks, the past few months, it's very evident that there's a lot of higher powers that are trying to eradicate and silence and oppress queer communities. And being a public figure and a leader and a mentor to a lot of people in my own community locally, and it and internationally, online, it's really important to me to be able to stand for something that is positive and invokes a sense of hope. Not to be cheeseball, but I think we do have to like find people and communities and spaces where we can build that sense of strength when everything else around us is trying to just crush us. And believe me, it's very worrisome to feel like there's not much you can do at times. But I think building community is a really good place to start, and preserving those communities and creating them, especially in our clarinet multiverse, is also very important. Because growing up myself, I never had really any kind of role model that looked like me or was Latino or queer presenting or queer identifying in the clarinet community, actually for most of my career, honestly. So it's kind of been my goal to be the leader and mentor and kind of like icon that I never had when I was young. And I think it's already doing its work. I get a lot of really cool messages from people around the world, and it's been really cool to connect with people and hear some of their stories and know that I'm making an impact in a positive way. And at the end of the day, money, notoriety, whatever, this is really what matters to me. And I can pack up my clarinets knowing that I'm doing the thing I set out to do.
I want to throw you just a little bit of a curveball question that just popped in my head. Your online presence does on the topic of fair representation, your online presence as clarinet is embraces a lot of different kinds of content, but some of the content is very much educational. It's educational material within kind of the standard clarinet I don't know academy where you're teaching a lot of stuff. Do you get feedback, or do you have feelings about why it's so important for you to teach these kind of traditional concepts in non-traditional ways and as clarinet?
Yeah, I'm not sure if I have like a philosophy on teaching those kinds of things, but at the end of the day, I just want there to be options for people who need them. I think it's really fun to be able to deliver a topic that's been regurgitated 1,000+ times in a way that is honestly kind of just like crazy and just fun and glamorous and stupid and but also useful. I have so many ideas. I also do all my own videos and I work full time, so I have a big laundry list of topics I want to do that are on my queue. But yeah, I have a lot of fun creating my educational content, whether it be educating people on different instruments with my musical puns, or creating duets with orchestral excerpts, or teaching people how to glissando. I'm still trying to like figure out what people want to learn about, but I think the most important thing for me is having fun with it. I always tell my students, if you're not having fun with it, then other people won't have fun too. And I think that's really important for educational content. I see a lot of tutorials and things online that are not necessarily fun, and no shade, but I'm just trying to like make mine a little more digestible. I want people to have fun learning the clarinet, and I think that's priority one for me.
Brilliant. And I know that everyone who uses your resources are enjoying themselves and having a thoroughly fun time. Now, I believe you have some exciting news to share. You're sort of dangling in our face like candy. What's going on, Doctor?
Oh, with the clarinet. Most recently, I've joined the Henri Silmer Paris roster. So this has been a such a moment. I never thought. I'll say this honestly. There were times where I never thought I would get to reach that upper echelon in the community and kind of be able to have a platform that was attached to such a big label. And I love Silmer clarinets. I've been playing them for years now, and I can't speak highly enough of the team that I've been collaborating with, and they've been so open and warm and genuine and supportive of what I'm trying to do and accomplish with clarinet. So it's been really exciting, and I'm looking forward to being able to represent the brand with everything I got, and also look good.
Congratulations. That's
Thank
huge.
you.
I'm so happy for you. And I'm so grateful that that you have a platform to continue to spread the good word, the good clarinet word. What are some things, some pieces of advice you might have for somebody who wants to break the mold, who's in clarinet there, but they don't feel like they're 100% speaking in their voice? What are some pieces of advice for people who want to break the mold and enter communities and build communities through clarinet in unusual ways?
I think that there's always a way. For the longest time, I kind of saw myself as like a follower, and I was trying to fit into spaces or find spaces that were already available. But you can always just create your own space. If you don't have a seat at the table, build your own. That's kind of been my thought process. There's so much gatekeeping and nepotism and mental gymnastics that happen in classical music, and it's really built out of a lot of Western European tradition that I hope is slowly trying to be made aware, and then maybe we can try and find different ways of approaching these practices. But in terms of building new platforms and creating space, there's so much opportunity now more than ever. If you have a phone, you have a digital studio. You can create an online community for people who need it. Or if you have the opportunity to create someplace in person, whether it be your university or wherever you are, especially for circling back to our previous question about creating space for queer communities. I don't think that there's nearly enough of them to go around, and I myself know a lot of people who are looking for those kinds of places to find and build home, and find chosen family and friends. So I think that maybe it can seem a little daunting at first, but once you get started, that's the hardest part. I think the hardest part of doing anything is just taking that first step and just realizing, okay, I've started it. Tomorrow will be easier. I'm making progress. And then, you start to have more of a vision and a bigger picture for what you're trying to accomplish. And I myself am very vision oriented. When I started clarinet, I knew I looked like garbage, but I knew what I wanted to look like and what I was trying to do. And I had the ideas and the nuts and bolts, and slowly but surely it came together. And now I'm doing the thing. And that in itself is wild. I still wake up some days, I'm like, I can't believe this is my life. This is crazy. But yeah, I'm not sure if that's the best answer, but I think that it's just, in 2023, people need a reason to feel like they can get up and be somewhere that they're valued and they have purpose. And that's important to me. And I hope that other people who are watching this can take something from that too.
Thank you so much, Dr. Clarinet, because that message resonates with me in so many various ways. And I know that as a person, not just from the LGBTQ plus community, but also has the intersectional component of being Latino, it's a lot that you're contending with. You know, it's a lot that you enter this space with a lot of you that is automatically placed in these boxes. And so I appreciate the work you're doing on behalf of all of the people present and coming up, who haven't had that opportunity, haven't had that space that you're making, that space that you're building this table. And that's something that's super important, I know, to myself and to Sarah. So thank you so much. And congratulations again on becoming a Selmer artist.
Thank you so much.